To my homegirl Laquita J. Elmore, Najee. Lift every chair and swing till all them white folks scream. Thought y'all could run up on our black king. I'm glad the squad pulled up, dedicated to Nuck if you buck. May it resound loud as the rolling sea. Throw your hats high in the air until Unc comes with the chair. Swim the seas until our cousins come and they rescue me. Let this be a lesson to y'all. Remember the Montgomery Brawl, where white folks fucked around and they found out.
Well, welcome to this episode of I'm calling it Tim Fro's reading, but as you guys will know, I am kind of anti-Tennessee right now since the election. And it was right after the election that I was able to, I found out about another one of Octavia E. Butler's books. I don't know how many of y'all have discovered um, this particular author, Octavia Butler. It was phenomenon. I think she was completely unappreciated in her day. She was almost forgotten after writing these uh, book award winning books before she died after a fall. I have always just been kind of sad that I didn't discover her until I was able to, um, until I was absolutely able. I was able to find out who she was. What is that? Because I'm no longer on X. I'm barely on Facebook these days. But there is a Blue Sky. I had just joined Blue Sky, and I was able. No problem, will do. Um, that I decided to go ahead and read this. I stopped being on X because right after it was taken over by Elon Musk, it started getting, and he became a fervent Trump supporter. He has this crazy idea of recreating and populating the earth. I was very skeptical, and I was concerned that even in spite of her being the best choice, there was no way that these racist, misogynistic, homophobic people would ever allow Kamala Harris to lead us into the next century. People that There's several types of people that I've noticed in this world. There are people that will cut off their nose in spite of their face. That's what I think racists will. Racists will pass a bunch of policies that will affect them more than they will anyone else. They will vote for a felon who represents an ideal because the president-elect is a moron. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry to say that, but he really is. He was produced into stardom by people that basically said we can't let him be a moron or look like one. So he drank his own Kool-Aid. And to no avail, he's a billionaire, but he never pays his bills. They just filed for bankruptcy and he keeps his cash. Runs up a whole bunch of bills, and then hide behind bankruptcy. I think it's foul. I think it's cheap, but it is what it is, you know? So, with those things said, I was cruising through Blue Sky, and there are a lot of other creatives that have navigated or migrated to that platform. So a lot of us are still on Instagram. A lot of people are TikToking before they basically take that away. But I think the Democrats underutilize TikTok and trying to get it banned was not the way to go. But I think they lost the generation or type of people or creatives that use that not only as their way of communication, but also maximizing their influence to reach the masses. I think we may have missed the mark on that, but it did help to dox that fool that basically said, your body, my choice. He got his. I didn't think anybody could have predicted this election and just the overall angst of this year, as well as Octavia Butler. Parable of the Sower was actually dropped back in the early 90s. It was re-released with a new forward by the great LeVar Burton of Geordie of Kunta Kinte fame, Roots fame. And it is about, it starts out by a young child, what's this child's name? Lauren. They said back in the 60s, the families reclaimed their African heritage. They had just newly election in 2024 of a guy that basically said he was going to return America to its greatness. Okay. Gas-powered cars were a thing of the past. Water costs more than food. And people were navigating or immigrating to places like Washington and Oregon and Canada because and also a lot of states were closed they said California's trash. That blew my mind. The unhoused poor, how she predicted the demise of her walled neighborhood. The walls of these different neighborhoods survived. They grew their own vegetables. They returned to the land in such that it made such thing as acorn flour and made acorn bread. They grew their own fruit trees and had these gardens because, as I said, and then they paid for water. You had to pay a fee for firefighters and for the police. Nobody made home repairs. Generations of families stayed together out of necessity. If you were lucky enough to have walls, some of the best ones had electrified barbed wire. Even though this book dropped years before Meta, years before virtual reality, but yet these rings and windows were spoken of. Through all of this, Lauren creates Olamina creates concept of God being change. She has something called hyperempathy, where she can basically feel and sense the pain of others. That makes it hard because but she will cap a mug if she has to. She basically knows that in order for humanity on some level to survive, they have to give up the archaic consideration of what God is and religion as it stands. And Earth Seed, this sect, has a place in the stars. However, they have to survive these times when the Mars programs and the space programs are being downsized. I think I'm getting closer. I'm actually on chapter 20 now, and I'm getting closer. Getting closer to if they make it at least to Oregon, or did they end up in Seattle? Because of evidently, because if you look at the topography or geography, they still are technically rainforest, so they're still getting a lot of rain. There's a part of it when she's like in 15 or 16 and it hadn't rained for like 6 years. And they have to pay a pretty penny when someone actually sets fire and actually rapes and kills one of the women, older women that lives closer to the wall. And then they set fire and they basically use that as a cover to rob more houses. It seems like drug make these people set fires and go crazy. And they use their own addiction to be able to abuse and kill and scavenge. Kind of sounds like today's time. And this Morpeth, Christopher Morpeth Donner, yes, I thought first thing I thought was the Donner Party. But I was like, Donner, did she know Donald Trump was a figment of imagination? And I think he was a Democrat then. This is before again, this book dropped before The Apprentice. He was still not paying his taxes in New York at the time, throwing up buildings and pretending to be wealthy when he was not wealthy. So, but this again, this presidential elect who did become elected to president promised to return the states to the good old days, but have policies and no clear idea how to do that. So in the meantime, roving bands of cracked out drug addicts and the seriously destitute poor, unhoused, are roaming and burning and pillaging and raping, etc. She basically came up with Earthseed when she was 15. It wasn't until she was after her father disappeared, because he and her stepmother did have good paying jobs. At his father had a good paying job at the university. However, he would stay there he stayed there overnight, but this time he came back and disappeared, and it was never found again. It was not too long after that that he the outside came in, where the walls and the barbed wire and the glass could not keep the roving band of what they call on pyro, the addicts, the painted faces. Couldn't keep the outside in. What they didn't take, they burned. And she and two other people in her neighborhood ran for their life. And she grabbed her emergency pack, came back and got what she could. They hid money and guns, etc. And she had to take off with them, and they just had an idea, the concept of heading north out of California. And they're now in where I stopped is in Salinas, and they were talking about towns that they run up against, and it was an earthquake that set off a new wave of scavenging and burning and pillaging. So they had to go there to resupply and also to go to these water stations to again clean up and pay for this water, clean off and fill up their canteens. And then they bought a rifle, and it's just first I said this is going to be bleak and hard to read, and God knows I have a lot to read. Between business law and accounting one, I'm with it. I got stuff to read, child. So I don't know why you'd be trying to contact me back in January. I love because as I said, I'm not on Facebook like that, and maybe he's trying to contact me about his mother and her breast cancer. However, you know, what I've learned in life and what I've gathered from this book, I think if it had been urgent, he would have tried to contact me through the same means, or they would have tried to contact me again. Um, because that was January, like over 12 months ago. If it had been that urgent, then he would, either one of them would have tried again. But since I'm really not on Facebook like that, I take messages and contact with a grain of salt. What I have learned, and I'm not much older than the father of the girl in this book, but sometimes you can't let everybody in. You got to be very skeptical. She had hyper empathy. I don't know if I'm hyper empathic. I just know I'm very cynical. Um, Even family will can be your worst enemy. Um, I think Octavia Butler has demonstrated this multiple times. And for you to get over and to be able to survive, sometimes you got to let people go. One of the things I have learned from one of my cousins is if you really needed me, if it was a real emergency, you would contact me again. So it must not have been a real emergency. And I think that's the way I preserve my sanity. And I think that's the takeaway point. You have to be open to change. You have to be open to growth, but you can't grow if you have things like like crabs, like tentacles holding you back. If we are going to survive, there's certain steps we're going to have to do. We're going to have to be able to learn, be able to adapt, and to be able to be productive. Meat's going to get outrageous. If Don's meat market doesn't want me in his store, fine. If I can't get a pretty decent steak at Walmart because I can't shop at Walmart anymore because they want to live in their racist ways, fine. If my plants can survive on my hydroponic system, um, and it allows me or makes me slow down in my intake because I've preserved so many things, then fine. Teach yourselves recipes how to preserve, because that's the way the world is going to be. It's going to be cost prohibitive. Looking into systems, water systems to recycle your water and collect rainwater. Um, how to if you're going to have a pool, making some you may actually have to filter it to be able to use that water. Are things or will things become as bad as it is in this book? Probably, maybe. But desperate people do what desperate, wild things. I don't think people are satisfied with just chaos and going the opposite way. There are some people like the painted faces in Octavia Butler's book. They're not just, they're not, their whole goal in life is not to help anyone, but only to satisfy their own basic needs, to destroy and to burn. And that's basically it. But there's so many themes that I think I probably will explore in later sessions. I want you to tell me your favorite. I want you to write to me in the comments to tell me some of your favorite takes and some of your favorite uh, lines from the book. I'm going to leave you with this one because this is, as I said, I got to chapter 20. God is neither good nor evil, neither loving nor hating. God is power, God is change. We must find the rest of what we need within ourselves, in one another, in our destiny. And that's where I'm going to leave you. Octavia E. Butler, Parable of the Sower. Join me next time as I explore these and other themes. And thank you for your support. So that's how we're going to end this episode. And I'm going to end it with a positive word. I used to scoff at people making this statement because of its simplicity, or maybe because it sounded more like an admonishment that I was being everything but kind. But then when I started investigating it for myself, that's when I realized that I was confusing politeness with kindness. Politeness is a fake, superficial manner in which there's no required investment, no self-reflection. But being kind is an adjective. It is an action. If you're kind to yourself first, it's like exercise memory. You will continue and be kind to others. Let that sit with you for a while. I'm going to try to be kind to myself. I'll be kind to others. It's very simple, and you got to repeat it. Lean into the spirit of a new year by counting your blessings, giving to others, and spreading happiness. I know I will. And this episode, or this podcast, is my means to spread joy and happiness and light and enlightenment. There's so much going on with aggression and just meanness. But if I can leave you with one small positive thought, start your day with that, that can change everything for you. And just basically change your day. Don't forget to check out Dale's Angels Inc. for the notes on this podcast, as well as other works by CQM and other contributors that are in work or in being edited right now. Also, check out my Instagram feed, Tenfro is Reading. You can check me out on Facebook, Tenfro is Reading Book Club, as well as my YouTube channel, Tenfro is Reading and Eating. And what I'm just chatting and streaming at TV Food Wine Girl on Twitter. Navigate to Writer's Block Coffee or shipabagadicts.com. Use my promo code Tenfro Coffee or Tenfro Got Jokes respectively to get a percentage off of your order. Don't forget to drop me a line at tenfroisreading@gmail.com. All non-trolling messages may be actually read online, and you can do the same if you are in Podbean or Anchor or wherever you listen to the podcast. And again, shedding light and positivity. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I've enjoyed creating it. Until next time, bye.